An Oneida County resort over 100 years old will never look the same after last night's storm. Thankfully, downed trees and crushed cars were the worst of it. Newswatch 12's Dan Hagan has more on the people who narrowly escaped.
This tree came down and went up over that way, and I don't know, the whole camper shook.
Bill Gingler was one of many campers at Weaver's Resort with near misses.
It scared the heck out of us.
During Friday's storm, a tree fell inches from his camper.
I just remember my mom screaming, "Oh my God."
Peter Mervar huddled with his parents as the storm ripped through. They woke up Saturday to a few branches on their camper and an entire tree on their truck.
I'm still in shock from last night. I'm overwhelmed by everything. I just can't believe that this happened and everyone's out safe.
About 100 yards up the road, another close call shook campers.
We had to leave the pop-up camper because this tree fell on the truck. It was pretty horrible.
Jen Summer and her 3 friends climbed over downed trees and power lines to find safe shelter. They knocked on doors of a dozen cabins before finally someone was home.
Just want to say thank you to our neighbors over there who came and got us out of the camper, and to the nice people that let us in their cabin.
With no vehicles, Mervar and Summer both had to figure out another way to get back to their respective homes in Sheboygan and Wausau. But a storm like Friday night's helps put wrecked trucks in perspective.
You can replace a truck, but you can't replace lives. So I'm really thankful that everyone's fine and I'm here with my family.
In Pelican Lake, Dan Hagan, Newswatch 12.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Friday's storms caused massive damage all over Langley County. Many are without power, which means food that needed refrigeration will spoil. Newswatch 12's Dan Hagan was in Pickerel today and has more on a restaurant that had to clear house.
The Siebers family spent much of their Sunday scrubbing. Linings of their walk-in freezer were covered in mold. The Siebers restaurant, the Northwoods Inn, lost power after the storm Friday night.
We've been through a lot here. You know, we've been here 23 years in business, but it's pretty tough. It's tough to deal with.
They had to throw away thousands of dollars worth of food from their freezer.
Only had one generator, enough to run 2 chest freezers. So basically our big walk-in cooler, all the food is pretty much a loss.
And the loss of food is just the beginning.
On Saturday night, there's supposed to be a Tom Petty tribute band on the stage behind me. Without enough electricity, they had to cancel and lost hundreds of people's business. If the power doesn't come back soon, they'll be losing thousands.
Loss of business is going to be huge. It's the middle of July. Between gas, restaurant, bar, it's a big impact.
People of Pickerel have stopped by the Northwoods Inn all weekend, asking for gas and water. With one small generator, the Siebers can't pump gas and are using minimal water.
We just obviously suffered a lot of hardship in the area with the Pickerel fire a couple weeks ago, and we're all just trying to stay strong as a community.
In Pickerel, Dan Hagan, Newswatch 12. Parts of Langley County are in pieces after Friday night's storm. 5 trees fell on Dee Powell's house in Pickerel.
We're back here.
His garage caved in, and his truck was smashed. Trees that have stood on his family's land for a century split like a toothpick in winds close to 100 miles an hour.
I work all over the United States, and I've never seen nothing like this.
Down Highway 55 in Lilly, the scene is eerily similar.
We ran to the basement. You could hear everything breaking. You could hear everything smashing. And we didn't realize how much damage it had caused until we had seen in between the lightning flashes.
Brittany Hauser woke up to dozens of trees on her driveway.
Couldn't even see the lane. You couldn't see any of that. It was just covered in trees.
Hauser used to have a field of tall pines all around her house. Now only the splintered ends remain. Luckily, no trees fell in the house with Hauser, her husband, and 2 boys inside. 25 miles to the northwest, a tree fell right on top of a mobile home on Pelican Lake. The family left just hours before the storm hit.
When we pulled into the property, my mom and I both said, "Oh my God."
Brittany Hill and her family saw a totaled trailer and more trees fallen than standing in their yard.
Uprooted it right out of the ground and flipped it up.
Their dock was also impacted by the storm.
We think the wind must have just taken it and flipped it right over on top.
The Hills were going to build a permanent home on their land soon anyway.
Obviously, this year's kind of done for us up on the lake, but we always have next year and the years after, so we're just looking forward to moving forward.
For locals like Powell and the Hausers, they will need to ride out the aftermath of the storm and wait for power to return. In the Northwoods, Dan Hagan, Newswatch 12.
Governor Evers called the storm damage he saw in the Northwoods today extraordinary. His helicopter and car tour took him through the Pickerel and mountain areas. It came one day after declaring a state of emergency. Evers doesn't need to convince people nearby who spent the day cleaning and fixing. Newswatch 12's Ben Meyer has the story.
The normal serenity of Post Lake in northern Langlade County was interrupted by the beeps and grunts of heavy machinery today. High winds ruined forests and toppled trees into homes.
It was like a third world. I couldn't get down the driveway.
Bob Lund has been coming to his lake property for 58 years. Since he was 4 days old, he likes to say.
My mom gave delivery on July 4th, and within a couple days, I was vacationing up here at the cottage.
But today, he was helpless, stuck watching forestry machines rip trees off his house.
I'm trying not to be angry. No one got hurt, so that's what counts. And we can rebuild stuff, but it's numbing. Talking to other neighbors, everyone's like a zombie walking around.
After declaring a state of emergency yesterday, Governor Tony Evers flew over and drove through the damage around nearby Pickerel.
Just extraordinary. You know, it's mile after mile after mile of essentially downed trees.
But shortly after those trees fell down, Evers saw people standing up to help.
I don't think any other governor can make the claims that I do, that Wisconsinites are really something special around this issue, with volunteers, neighbors helping neighbors.
Bob Lund's neighbors hurried into his basement Friday night as storms rolled in. He and those neighbors will look forward to a different Post Lake for years to come.
Nearly everyone's impacted. Yeah. And there's thousands of trees that are gone. So it's changed the face of the lake for some time.
In Langlade County, Ben Meyer, Newswatch 12.
A normal Friday fish fry at Wolf's River Inn turned to chaos.
My brother's the chef, and he seen the tree go up in the air, and he started screaming.
50 people piled into the restaurant's basement. About a half hour later, the storm passed, leaving destruction.
Peeked out and seen that all the trees were down and cars were crushed.
The restaurant's owner, Dale Wolf, saw no major damage to his restaurant, but said he lost $20,000 worth of food.
We had to throw away everything.
Food his community sorely needed.
Good to see you.
Wolf's sister and brother-in-law drove into town late yesterday from Green Bay and worked through the night to help.
We're handing out barbecue meals to people in need.
The husband and wife team tour the country with their food truck. They've helped others in need before, but this time it's personal.
I've seen tornadoes before and wind damage, but not in my hometown.
JJ Zipkovich wanted to help out his hometown too. He drove from Rhinelander earlier today to cut trees and clear brush. After working all morning, he was grateful for a hot meal.
It's great that they can take time out of their busy schedule and family schedule, but younger kids, and come supply food for the community.
Kevin LePage of Antigo isn't from Post Lake, but he heard about the severe storm damage. He decided to buy out all the water from a Menards and deliver it.
I help people out, man. If I'm in that spot, I'd hope people would help me out.
The people of Post Lake welcomed all the help, a bright spot for a community just starting to recover.
This area is really strong people around here. They're used to fending for themselves, but sometimes it's good to get the community together because they're all working in their own little area and try to just brighten their spirits and bring them up a little bit.
Good evening. 4 days after severe storms hit northern Wisconsin, thousands of trees still lay uprooted and many people still don't have any power. In White Lake, a Christian youth camp had to close for the first time in its history, but they are determined not to take the storm damage laying down. Newswatch 12's Dan Hagan was at the camp today and joins us with more on our top story. Dan, good evening.
Lane, hundreds of campers arrived at Silver Birch Ranch on Friday. They were only there for a half day when trees started getting ripped from the ground.
This now silent chapel was full of campers and music last Friday night. After looking at the weather radar, Jason Kemper rushed in.
He's like, well, let's finish this song first. I'm like, no, we're not finishing a song.
350 campers were brought through the grounds of Silver Birch Ranch to shelters.
A couple of minutes after that, after everybody was safe, trees just started falling down.
The morning light revealed downed trees, broken power poles, and smashed buildings. In the 52 years of Silver Birch Ranch, it's the first time campers had to be sent home. Though the campers left, staff and volunteers stayed.
I'm here because I wanted to stay and help. I mean, my parents could have taken me home, but then I wouldn't have been able to see all this progress made.
We want to get the campers back here as soon as possible, so we're trying to get cleanup going as quick as we can.
It's cool to see how much we've done. I'm a little tired, but we've accomplished a lot in the past few days.
People from the area have been helping out too, providing heavy machinery and working long hours.
So many friends from the community who've just come up here and given their time, even people taking off work to help us out.
Over 100 people are coming together to pick up the pieces of Silver Birch Ranch and restore its serenity for future campers.
In the midst of chaos, God always brings around good and it has a purpose behind it. And we're just on the front row seats, buckled up, ready to see what that purpose and what that plan is.
Good evening. Members of the National Guard, the Red Cross, and the DNR considered the Elko Fire Station their home base today. They were planning a large cleanup effort of debris-covered roads that will start tomorrow. Now, at the same time, a group of military veterans were hard at work today, helping out the people who don't have the ability to clear their land after last weekend's severe storms. Newswatch 12's Dan Hagan was in Elko today and joins us with more on our top story. Dan, good evening.
Lane, Team Rubicon is a national disaster relief organization made up mostly of veterans. I met some of them today, and they just want to help out people who can't deal with the damage themselves.
It's a heck of an organization, I'll tell you that.
Gordon Thomas of Elko had never heard of Team Rubicon before Wednesday. His neighbor told him the group was in the area helping people clear storm damage for free. A phone call and a day later, volunteers from Team Rubicon were on the scene.
As you can see, I mean, it's endless. I don't know what the heck, this would be a month's work.
Tegan Griffith of Crandon said she has been driving around with her crew in the hardest hit areas, asking if people need help. This morning, she and her team of mainly veterans cleaned up an elderly woman's yard in White Lake. In the afternoon, they were back at Thomas's to finish the job.
I took some vacation days from work and came out to be able to be of assistance to my fellow neighbors in a way that I know I can.
Kurt Hines said a lot of his Northwoods neighbors are in a financial pinch and need the free help.
A lot of these people, their insurance isn't covering these things, so we provide 100% free service for residents.
Thomas can't use a chainsaw or clear brush like he used to. Worker Colt Graves came up from Illinois to help people exactly like Thomas.
A lot of elderly people out here just can't quite do the work like they used to, so whatever we can do to help out really is what it comes down to.
Though Thomas didn't know what Team Rubicon was a few days ago, he won't be forgetting them anytime soon.
They're good people. They're good people.
Members of that crew come from Michigan, Wisconsin, and Illinois. If you want to learn more about Team Rubicon or donate, go to their website.
Storms ravaged parts of Langlade and Oneida counties more than a month ago. Some are just beginning the long process of recovery. Newswatch 12's Dan Hagan met owners of an affected campground today and has some more. Dan.
Rose, 40 days ago, 100-year-old trees crushed trucks and RVs at Weaver's Campground in Pelican Lake. No one was injured from the storm, but lasting damage was done to the property.
Upon reflection, Rick Lowe thinks Weaver's Campground weathered the storm.
All in all, we were very fortunate. Everything else can be repaired and replaced, but lives and limbs are a difficult thing, and we did not have any of those issues.
The severe weather hit southeast Oneida County, including the town of Pelican Lake, more than a month ago.
As the storm came in, I was funneling people into the basement.
5 campers were totaled. Many of the trucks were never ridden again. The Lowe's had to close shop for 2 weeks. Rick and his wife haven't stopped cleaning the debris.
We've come a long way, but there's still a long way to go. When we close down for the season, that's when they'll come in and do the actual repairs on all the buildings that were damaged.
Rick is still working with the insurance company on coverage. He's unsure what the damage will be to his bank account.
Don't know where we're at yet. We're a small mom and pop business. Don't know. You just do what you got to do.
Rick knows the whole community of Pelican Lake is depending on him to keep Weaver's Campground fully operational. The loss of his business during the summer hit others as well.
Not having these customers affect every restaurant, bar, gas station in the area. Recreation to the Northwoods of Wisconsin is our lifeblood here.
Weaver's Campground has been in Wendy's family for 5 generations. She is confident it won't stop with her.
It's extremely sad to see some of the trees that were lost. But that being said, they'll grow back. Not in my lifetime, but they'll grow back.
The Lowe's told me a 26-year returning customer had to cancel this year because of the storm. But that person has already reserved a spot for next year. Rose?